Hey, welcome to this week's TrendForce training. We just wrapped it up. Key level patterns. So guys, we looked at chart patterns. Dad went through a bunch of examples, indicators turned off. We just wanted to show you and start training you for what is up ahead for us, how to start recognizing patterns that take place at key levels. So I didn't reference them during the training, but on page 63 in our system PDF, you can find this chart patterns picture right here. Otherwise, no more from me. Enjoy the training. We'll see you on the inside. Welcome everyone. Tonight we are back into it again, and the tension, if you could just believe for how hard it is for someone like Dad to still bring a ton of value that is going to be relevant in the new version coming. And I can't even call it a new version. I can't give away names just yet. I was calling it the next. But he has still, we chatted a bunch today about what we could cover in these weeks between the where we are and the where we're going. And it is very transferable, everything that we're getting into tonight. So aside from that, I don't think we've 1,000% confirmed the 28th, but I can say we've 99% confirmed it, that the 28th, I believe it is a Saturday, and our plan at the moment is to do an event on that day, more day than at night, so to speak. So of February, Saturday, the 28th of Feb, at the moment looking more like we want to do like an afternoon, quite a chunky time of training so that everyone who shows up leaves knowing exactly how this new system is going to work. And good time for Q&A, good time for hangout. We're probably going to even maybe have a lunch beforehand so we can all have some cool community time before that. So for now, guys, diarize the 28th. We'll give you more times and confirmations as such of what it looks like for those that I know already want to book some flights and drive, etc. But for now, tonight, we've got plenty to get into. So I'm going to find out, I'm going to pin him, and we are going to rip into tonight's training because, yeah, we got plenty to cover. So, Dad, let me find you. There we go. Thank you for unmuting yourself. Gotcha. Once again, massive thank you for not just the amount of time you're putting into, obviously, what's coming, but for still providing a ton of stuff for us in between that is applicable in the new. I know that it is difficult. So I know you've got some gold for us tonight. And so without me waffling any future, I'm going to hand it over to you. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I am. Let's go. So no need to share my screen yet. So well done on your dinner, Mike. That looked very good. Not as good as our dinner.
Oh, shots fired.
I caught 2 snapper and my wife cooked them and it was absolutely amazing. Well, let me say, sorry, I caught the special on the snapper at Pack and Save.
When did you go fishing?
And my wife cooked them. So we had amazing snapper. So there we go. Anyway, so much for food. There was a great dinner, ready for some training. And as Ty said, we are amping and buzzing and are finding what is still relevant to what we can teach now based on version 4 with what we could take forward. And definitely looking just at chart patterns. You know, we look at them from time to time. We make a note of them while we are actually trading. But they are absolutely massive, chart patterns. And especially, we haven't emphasized this because we haven't emphasized levels as much as we will moving forward. So last Tuesday, we talked about, rejecting key levels. And we're going to look at just some examples tonight. It's a bit random. I've gone through the Dow and the NASDAQ, looking at some examples, maybe look at my trade from last week and one this morning I took, and just talk about chart patterns at key levels. I mean, this is the key takeaway. If you remember anything tonight, remember this, that when you see a chart pattern, now obviously many times you look, there'll be a pattern and there'll be no level, but I can guarantee you almost every single time you see a chart pattern, it's because price is testing a level. And the pattern forms once price rejects that level. So I want to say that again. This is the key thing. It's something that you need to look out for. So I'll say it again. Every time that a pattern forms, it's because price has been testing a key level and afterwards it has been rejecting a key level. And so there are multiple, there's so many different chart patterns you can get. Honestly, 99.9876 times of the time, well, not exactly, I'm just being facetious there, but almost 99% of the time, I'm only looking at a handful of patterns. I'm looking at, the M pattern or double top, the W pattern, double bottom, or the triple bottom, triple top, or the head and shoulders. That's all I really look for. And for me, that is, I know Ty does a lot of channels and he does his bear flags and pennants and things. I do some of those and obviously trend lines. But generally, I find at key levels, those are the patterns I'm always looking out for. And so let me just share my screen now, Ty, if I can give me permission to share. Let's see if this is going to work tonight. And then, of course, your beautiful faces there. I see the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. behind Mark all the way in the Netherlands. There we go. All right, so the key, what am I on now? I am on the US30 on the 1 minute. Time is ticking away, but it's always good to always dial out. So I know when I get up and I trade, whatever I trade, I always go to a higher time frame. But let's just go firstly look at some patterns on the daily. Now, I haven't been practicing. I'm just going to see what we can see here. Looking at the daily pattern, you'll see often there are, like this was the huge move. This was way back. This is where I've drawn my, if I put on drawings quickly, my daily fib should pop up right there. You can see this was a very significant time. This low that was already on April, we can see there was a double bottom there. Now, it's not every shape is perfect. You know, sometimes there's a head and shoulders with two shoulders on one side. I see that quite a lot often, but that doesn't invalidate any kind of pattern, because clearly if you see like a bit of a distorted head and shoulders, it still means price is testing a level and the pattern forms and price rejects. So if we think of this was way back all the way in April last year, so kind of 9 months away. We can see price made this double bottom, and that kind of really sticks out. If you just look around, this area here is the area that stuck out the most. And again, you can see, I always draw trend lines. We could maybe pop one off from here, and we can see, now of course my drawings have come on, but we can see once price broke that trend line, we've been bullish ever since, except for that pullback over there. So let me just turn my drawings off. I'll delete that, just turn my drawings off. So I'm always looking back. You know, again, you can go to lower time frames. Let's look at the 4 hour. Can we pick up anything? We can see a bit of more sideways motion lately here, sort of more rangy on the 4 hour. But look here, we can see, just looking back, look at this here. What we got here. This is what I would call a triple bottom. We can see price tested this zone. If you drew a little zone like that, my drawings come on again. We can see price clearly rejected that zone, and then after that price moved up. And again, let me just hide my drawings again. Whenever you get like a triple bottom, see if you can always draw in a trend line. Now, obviously, this is a 4 hour chart, so it's going to be a little bit small, but you could potentially have drawn, my drawing's going to come on, so I won't do that, but you can see we've got drawn a trend line there. So always look for patterns. And again, after that triple bottom, we can see from that first bullish candle, there was a pullback, you know, price went up 2,000 pips. Look over here, what do we got over here? I can see this is the head and shoulders. These are the main patterns I'm looking for. Head and shoulders, again, if you drew a trend line, price rejected the trend line, and kind of once the trend line broke, which is around here, we can see again, price moves up 1,000 pips. Now, there's not always a clear pattern. Like here, for example, there's not a clear pattern, not even a Heikenhaus reversal pattern, but clearly we can see there was a key level there that price rejected. So I'm always looking for patterns. You know, wherever we go, sometimes here there's not a pattern, but look here, this is the 4 hour chart. So what's the 6 candles or so? How many candles? We've got 5 candles. That's for 20 hours. Price tested that level, then broke. So that's more than a triple top. That's kind of like a quadruple top. So again, even if you went down to the 1 hour, I'm always looking for patterns. Let's see if we can see anything on the 1 hour. Let's have a look quickly, going back. Nothing clearly is sticking out, but you can see again, levels are tested after that price breaks. But let's go all the way down to the 1 minute, and we'll take a look just at what's happened in the last day or so. Let's reset the chart view. So you can see price has been moving up. So whenever price moves up, let's go back to the origin of the move and see what caused it. So here we can see what happened down here. Wow, look at this. We can see from this morning, price fell off a cliff. And I would call this a double bottom. Again, you're not always going to get perfect patterns. But whenever you see, you know, big wicks like this, clearly, you know, buyers are trying to push price back up. And we can see a bit of a Heikenhaus reversal pattern. I'll just widen it out a bit. We can see a bearish, doji bullish. But again, we can see here, I would still call this a double bottom. You know, it won't always be perfect. What caused that? So let's see if we just turn on the drawings, is that going to help us? Not really. Am I on the 1 minute? Something's gone wrong with my drawings there. That's weird. I don't know. That's correct. So we can see here price rejected, a big round number, 49,200. Let's put on the pivots and see if that was a reason. The pivots on, we can see here, look here, we've got, what is this one? You can just slide across quickly. R4, remember we like anything R3 and R4. So whenever price rejects a key level and a pattern is formed, there's normally always a good move up. Now where we're heading with what's coming, and they say it's more than an update. It's kind of a total transformation of how to trade. There's going to be a strong emphasis on levels and price rejecting levels. That's why we approached it last week, and I'm looking again. So whenever you see a shape, now again, I've blown the chart up, but this price, what did price, when price turned around, now you won't see why this happened, but with what's coming, it'll be very clear why price dropped 250 pips. So there's a bit of an advert for what's coming in a month or so's time. So massive 250 pips, and then price hit down to this pivot. This R4, rejected R4, came and retested, and this time it broke through R4 and also hit a big round number. So remember, we call that a cluster. Now, there would have been something else here that you'll find out in due course. But whenever you find a cluster and a shape, there's a very strong chance that price is going to reject that level and move up. So again, we can see nice double bottom here. And after that, price did go sideways, volume was low, but if we just zoomed out, let's just change this to a 3-minute chart. If we just zoom out now, we can see here, look how price went up after that. So huge move. So after that double bottom, double test, even though it did pull back, we can see price has gone up 160 pips. And again, we could almost draw a channel here. And I'm nervous drawing channels in the presence of the great, which is Tyron. But we can see, where can we draw this channel here? So we can see a bit of a channel developed after that. I'll move that in a bit, so more or less like that. You can see once price breaks a channel, now, of course, volume is low, so there wasn't a big move, but with high volume times, whenever price breaks these channels or breaks this pattern, there's almost a big move. Like, I think, let's just go back to that move I did, the trade I took last Friday. That was the 23rd. Let's just go there quickly. Are we going to go there? Yep, let's go there and have a look. So I've just got to find it quickly. Where was that move round? Now I've got to find it. Where was I? What time was it? Let's go earlier. Oh, of course, I'm on the 3. Let's go to the 1 minute. Is it going to keep me at the right time? I've got to go back. Sorry, got to go back. Press the calendar. Let's go back there. Go to, and it should take us there in a minute. Yes, so there was a channel over here that developed. So let's just see where that was now. I don't know if I'm going to make a mess of this. Was it from here? I'm trying to find a way that, okay, I will sort this out. Bear with me, bear with. It was that there, and okay, so there was a bit of a channel. I can't remember exactly how it plotted it, whether it broke above or below. But it was somewhere, I think this was the trade I took, and then there was 30 pips. Initially, I just drew the trend line, but I took 30 pips roughly down to the big round number. So always be looking, maybe that's not the best example, but I'm always looking for patterns and rejections, especially when you look up here, you can see again, here is a double top. So price came up, it's both, there's a fib number, this is my 0 fib. Price, there's a clear pattern. Even if we drew a trend line from lower down, we could have, where I'm drawing trend lines, I'm redrawing them. So I would have drawn that trend line, then I would have drawn it while price is moving, that trend line, then finally, I'm always moving my trend lines. And I think that was the candle I entered on. Let's just see where those 30 pips came from. It was round about there. Yep, I was trailing stop loss. I got stopped out in one of those pullbacks for 30 pips. I'd moved it down. So I was probably stopped. Yep, I put my stop loss there and I was stopped out in that candle. But there was a good 30 pips there. But again, whenever you see double tops, again, look for those patterns. So if we just go back to this morning, let's go across. And I didn't want that one. We'll leave that off for now. Let's go to this morning. And let's just have a look what else we can see with what happened. So if we look at this morning before that big fall away, huge, there was this huge move down. I was looking at other patterns. So again, I'm always looking again roughly. Sometimes the point I want to make tonight, it's not always perfect. Like their price came right up to a pivot, pulled back, didn't quite make it, pulled back, broke above, closed below. But again, if we look, we count trend lines as chart patterns. We can see there, look at that. I think this one, you can even draw potentially from further back. So if you went right down here, look at this. You could have drawn, that's a perfect trend line. And also, this is one of the lessons you learn too, that the longer the trend line, often the bigger the move. And so we can see we drew this when there's multiple points. There's a point, few points there, a test there, final test there, and then the break of the trend line. So always looking for breaks of trend lines. So I want to also have a look at the NASDAQ. Let's just turn. What's also good is to also look at slightly higher time frames. So if we just look again this morning, this is the 3-minute. Often you pick stuff up as well. So not quite a channel. I looked at this earlier, not quite a channel here. I didn't draw it this morning, but always look for channel breaks. Not a perfect one there. So we ignore that one. But if you go to a slightly higher time frame and look back, you can often see, patterns that you may miss on the 1 minute. So if we just looked at the 3-minute, let's have a look if we can see any other patterns. Looking back, we can see here, look at this. We can see this, look at this pattern here. We got it. This is a 4-hour fib that I've drawn. So it's my latest 4-hour fib. We can see a triple top, 1, 2, triple top. And after that, look at this massive rejection there. So I'm always looking, whenever I'm trading, I'm looking back. Often I'll just turn off my 1-minute chart, look at the 3-minute chart, looking for head and shoulders, constantly looking. And I tell you, they're there everywhere. If we just have a look at the NASDAQ. So if we go down and we go to the NAS, let's have a look here, wait for that to load. Let's just go to the 1 minute first and look at the NASDAQ and see what we can find here. So let me just go to current time. Okay, so let's just go back to this morning. I want to show you a trade I took. Yep. This is a trade I took this morning. So I took my dog for a walk. I went around about 6. And I came back. I started looking at the charts around about this time. And what caught my eye immediately was price had made a high there, made a high there, and a high there in a sense. That already was a head and shoulders. So if you drew, I didn't take this trade because I was out walking the dog for some at that time. But we can see there, it wasn't a clean drop because we had this daily fib level. But again, you can see the head and shoulders. Price breaks a trend line. After that, it dropped. Obviously, a big pullback. You had to have held your nerve, but still, there was 35 pips there. But when I came, and this is to help you with where we're going, immediately I came back to the sat round here, looking at the charts. I saw, wow, I saw these 3 highs here. I saw this head and shoulders. I saw price come down. Then I saw price moving up. And I thought, gee, if price rejects that level, I'm in. And so I watched it. And as soon as that red candle plotted, I jumped in. There was another reason, because if we have a look, I think the London high was also this blue line here. This is the London high. So we can see that was the New York high at the time, did make a higher high. But the London market closes at 6. Price couldn't close above the London high. So it almost tested it there. And when it tested it there and rejected, I jumped in. And I pressed sell there and I took 20 pips. I just took it down to the fib number. I thought I'm just going to jump in. So with where we kind of need to change the way we think of where we're going is that we've caught a lot of stuff counter trend because that's how we've been taught. But clearly when price rejects a clear level like that, then it's a clear sign that, price is going to move the other way. So I'm always looking for those kinds of shapes. I'll just take off the big round numbers. Again, let's just have a look at the NAS. I'll turn off let's look at high time frames again. Let's look at the daily, and you can see the NAS also started its bearish. Let me turn off the pivots. They'll look messy. We can see at a very similar time. It wasn't as clear double bottom as the Dow, but around the same time, this is again April, we're now on the NASDAQ, we can see on a daily chart, we can see we could call that definitely a double bottom because it's 2 days apart. Price made this double bottom. So you look at that, around 16,000. It made a double bottom. Clearly, there was a level that was tested twice on a daily chart. And since then, we can see how price rocketed up again. Whenever price tests a level, draw a trend line. Oops, there we go. All my drawings are back. But again, even if you entered there, we can see, I mean, price has now rocketed up, you know, to what is happening. How many pips is that? Was that, gee, 7,000 pips. So higher time frames, you know, the bigger the time frame and the more the price rejects a pattern, the higher it goes. So you can see that huge bullish trend was started off with a double bottom way back in April. So there's not really other big significant patterns. We can see on the NAS price has been going slightly sideways, you know, since, let's see, since where is that? Since November. We haven't really, you know, reached the all-time high again. But again, let's have a look on the 4-hour chart and see if we can pick up any patterns. You know, sometimes they're not as clear. So here's a good example. Here's a 4-hour. We can see there's a bit of a pullback there. You could almost call that a reverse head and shoulders. There's a low, price goes up, makes a lower low, you know, a bit of a bullish run, comes back, retests, and then we can get all the drawings back. But again, rejection of a trend line, and not as a neat move, but you break the trend line, there was still 700 pips there. So always be looking for patterns. If we let's turn the drawings off again, and let's just go hunting on the 1 hour. Probably it's been pretty rangy, you know, for the last few weeks. So we can see the 1 hour shows how price is going sideways. So looking for any significant patterns. We can see here, look what sticks out to me immediately. Look at this double top. So if you were, you know, when the market's in range, it's always a good time to have a quick look back to see, you know, what is happening. So look at this double top here. And once price breaks the trend line, a big move down. So I'm constantly looking. Whenever I'm trading, I'm looking for these patterns. So let's have a look. There were a few other things I wanted to look at on the 1 minute. So let's reset the chart view and go to the current time. So let's see what else we have got going here from this morning. So again, I highlighted the double bottom. This is much neater. So on the Dow, there was a double bottom, but the W was a little bit lower. So look here, look at this huge W pattern here. Boom. So let's have a look. What could have caused that? So let's turn on the pivots. I mean, I know what caused this. So there was no pivot there. What caused this was a big round number. So if we turn on the charts, so there wasn't a big round number. There was something else. So not a pivot. What's happened? There was something else. Maybe it's my secret sauce that I'm not showing you. But nevertheless, we have, let's do, it wasn't the pivot. Where's my pivots here? So it wasn't the pivot. There was something else that caused that, not that. But again, still we can see clearly we have this W pattern. And look at, if we just look back to, looking back at price action, we can see this is a daily fib. That's my 236 on my daily fib going back to the 25th of April. I showed you that low. And look how accurate fibs are. Even though this fib is 9 months old, look at the price action, price rejection. That caused the big move. And look, once we break this double bottom, price moves up. Where does it go to? Back to a fib that was drawn months ago. So again, always look for patterns. I'm always scrolling back. So I'm going to go to the 3 minute in a minute. And excuse the pun there, 3 minute in a minute. That often helps us to see a bit further back. So let's have a look at what we can identify here. Again, so I want to show you, so again, sometimes they're not clear. So for example, we often think of head and shoulders, price comes down to meet an area, but I'm always looking for something like this. So this is not a traditional head and shoulders, but you can see price made a low here, then made another low, then made a higher low. That was, of course, at the open, and then price bolted up. I think that hit a pivot over there, if I remember correctly. Maybe it's not one I've listed. Yep, there's a multitude of pivots there. So again, scrolling back, we can see, look here, if you were trading in the evening around 10 o'clock, look at this. Here we see a classic M pattern, and we could have drawn a trend line. If we just drew the trend line roughly from there, we can see a double top, price breaks it, and down it goes. Now we're looking at just what I'll call the bare essentials with version 4, how we draw charts, but where we're going, there's going to be a lot more clarity. So basically this is training to pick up patterns. So a nice M pattern, a nice double top. So let's look for a few more, just scrolling back. we can see that was at an open. So on the 3-minute chart, we can see what we can look. So even things that are slightly vague, look here. If I drew a little box over here, we can see I'm always looking for this too. So this was round about the open. We can see just before the open, price made a low, made another low. Then we had the open on that candle. It retested that area and look there. So that's more than a triple bottom. So again, sometimes the traditional patterns are, triple bottom is just 3 weeks, but don't be limited by 3 weeks. When you see multiple testings, that's what I did this morning. I showed you that sell I took on the NAS. There was kind of 4 tests at a level and then price move. So again, even if we go back earlier, look here. So if we go back to, if I just move this box down here, so this is not a traditional double bottom, but we can see again, price made a low, went up. So it's not quite a head and shoulders, not quite a double bottom. But whenever you see multiple tests of a level, there's a high chance that price is going to move after that. And so again, there were probably other factors in that. But again, we're looking at chart patterns on key levels always produce moves. So not limited to that. Here again, here's another good example. Look at this again around the open. It's not a double bottom. It's like a multiple testing of an area. You can see this is round 25,400. So price didn't even get down to this fib number. But all we can see here is, let me just draw a little box over here. So I draw these sometimes when I trade. Whenever you see an area tested in mold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's like 8. Now this is a 3-minute chart. 8 times price couldn't break below that level. And after multiple tests, boom, price rocketed up. So these are everywhere. So if I just move this box, this was now before the open. What time was this? Was this after, before? That was on the open over there. But again, look here, another double top. We can draw a trend line. So this should be second nature. We could maybe move that up as long as we get 2 good touches. This should be second nature, always looking for these patterns. Double tops, multiple areas being tested at a key level. Here's a perfect pattern too. Look here. This is kind of a weird head and shoulders, but I'll look for this too. We can see here we got a fib. That's our 382. We can see it's made a low there, made another low, made a higher low. And again, if we drew a trend line, we can see again, we could have drawn this one from a few places. So it's not an exact science, but this would have been a good entry right over here. Price breaks a trend line and then again breaks above that 382 level. And we can see that was 8:30 at night. I mean, price rocketed up 169 pips. So patterns always produce pips. There's a good saying. So again, they're not always perfect, but I'm always looking. Let's maybe look for a few more. We're looking at a 3-minute chart. Look at this. Here's a great example here. Look at this. So here, price has made a double bottom, but look how many times it tested this zone. So again, if we just drew a little kind of support zone over here, we can see that price, there was a huge move up. Price came down, hit a level, and we can see one of the key levels here was a fib level. That's a 786. But I can guarantee you there would have been other things there. We've got this is my daily fib from 25th of April, drawn from then. We can see price really caught in this whole zone. So in fact, this range area extended a little bit higher, but it came in really, let's draw it up to there. So I'm always looking for concentration too. So again, a double bottom, not as a perfect pattern, but again, produced a whole lot of movement. So I'll just look at a few more. We've gone back quite far now on our 3-minute chart, see what else sticks out. Okay, here's another good example. We often find that's what I like about the afternoon session. So often, well, this is the afternoon session, New York morning hour session. Look here, we got another triple top. Price came up and it tested this zone. You can see there multiple times. So again, I'm always looking when wicks are, when it's prices making highs and then not making higher highs. I'm looking again for a trend line break. So we could have drawn this in multiple places. And there we've got a trend line break. And again, so when you see a high concentration, multiple candles testing a level, and you break a trend line, that produces these big moves. So we can see that dropped 237 pips. So that trade ran from, what time was that? Ran from 618, and it bottomed out at 10 o'clock. So, I mean, gee, that's like, good, at least 3.5 hours move over there. So you'll see that pattern again. Let's see if we can find one more. When you get a concentration of price at a key level, not breaking through, making multiple highs. Let's just scroll back. When you look back, you find them everywhere. So that's why I'm always, that one doesn't qualify, but that is the open. We can see here, this is not the perfect example, but this was round and open. Again, look at this. We have a big round number. We can see price came up. What level was this? Tested 25,700. Came back. Then look at this, round the open. So that was, where's the open candle? Was that candle. The candle before the open tested that level. This is the 3-minute chart. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times on a 3-minute chart, it tested this level over here. So again, when you see a big concentration, it tested that level, not a big move down. Of course, the open adds volume. But again, when you see multiple testing, so this would be, it's more than a quadruple top. There you got 5 candles over 15 minutes. Eventually, we can see that drop down 227 pips. So I would encourage you, look out for that. Look out. Let's have a look, see if we can pick up some on the Dow. I love the Dow. Let's just go to, where's my arrow? We look for those price accumulation. So it's not every time there with just a single candle. So not quite. You could call that a double top, but not really a W. But let's see if we can pick out again where price has tested. Well, I think we looked at that one. There's a double top. No, we didn't look at that. There's a great, look at that M pattern. Price breaks a trend line. Now that was getting close to the close of the market, still 70 pips. Now what I've noticed, by the way, I know some of you, it may not suit your trading time, but you can do that on weekends. Historically, I'd noticed in the previous years that price used to die, around about 9 o'clock. And the last hour from 9 to 10, you would get these tiny little fizzle outs. But I've noticed in the last season that even from 10 o'clock, there've been moves. So look, this made a double top. It rejected the 382 plus a big round number. So we call that a cluster. So price went up, tested once, came down, retested, what we call a cluster. And this was already, normally the market would be ranging and it dropped down. I mean, a safe trade could have been the big round number. There's 53 pips, there's 71 pips. So if you have opportunity to trade, even up to 10 o'clock, there have been big moves. Historically, the move was around, 8:30, 9:30, and then price would go quiet. But look, here's another example. We can see, look how price is testing this zone. So again, it's not quite a double top, but we have all these highs. So clearly this area would interest me. I'd see, price moving around here. And again, trend lines, I love trend lines. Where's my drawing tool? I mean, you can almost draw these in your sleep now. There's a number of ways you could have drawn this. But on a 3-hour chart, I mean, that's the low from, 351, a retest, then a massive concentration. When price breaks a trend line, that can be a key that range is broken. Again, look at that huge trade. Rejects a fib, rejects a big round number, goes back down to a 4-hour fib, 150 pips. So look out for those clusters. Look for where price is retesting. I just look for where there are a lot of wicks. Sometimes they're spaced apart, but especially when they get those rangy things, then they're the big move. So we're still doing well for time here. Let's see if we can find a few more. Here's a nice head and shoulders. So we're just looking at patterns at key levels. So here we can see we've got 2 levels. That's a 4-hour fib number. Plus we got a big round number. That's 49,600. And we can see, again, not perfect, but price has moved up. We got a bit of a head and shoulders. And here, what I like about this one, there's a shoulder, there's a shoulder. And if we drew in a trend line, that would have been an entry there, potentially earlier. But you can see that head's also got a double top. So when you see that happening again, look at this. We got this ranging box over here. We got price testing. So remember, this is a 3-minute chart. So we've got 12 bars. That's 36 minutes. Price couldn't really break above the big round number and above a 4-hour fib level I'd drawn. And again, even before the shoulder is complete, price did still drop. 90 pips, came back, made a lower high, and then price fell off a cliff. I mean, that went down 215 pips. So look, there are big moves everywhere. If you learn to read the market, read the shapes. And I think maybe we've got an inventor name, Ty, for what I'm showing you tonight. It's one of the key things that I've been looking for lately. Look over here. I mean, this is after the open. But look here, we got again 1, 2, 3, 4 candles. This is around 4 o'clock, so it's well after the open. We got again, so you count that one, 5 candles, 15 minutes. Price was banging down. Now again, with where we're heading, there would have been other significant levels. Let's just pop on to see if there was a pivot there. It's just going to load in a second. No pivot there, but there would have been a good reason that you'll find out to come. But again, I'm always looking for a cluster of wicks, not making lower lows, and then looking for that. And again, after that, multiple testing, price went up 287 pips. So all the big moves, it's like they're not hard to pick up. So when you trade in future, look for multiple tests. So here's a nice triple top. You could say a bit of a head and shoulders. You could have broken the neckline there, came down. Again, look, these patterns are everywhere. You can see why I like them. Look at this perfect W pattern. Again, you could have drawn your trend line. Price breaks a trend line and off it goes. You often see this pattern too. There's not a name for it, but sometimes you get this double, I don't know what to call it. It's not a head and shoulders because you get kind of 2 shoulders and 2 heads. But that's also a pattern too when you see that, and you get, it's sort of almost symmetric, not quite. We've got a higher low and a higher low. And when you see that, often this high is greater than that high. So let's have a look at a few more. We've got a little bit more time. I'm just trying to drum into you when you see multiple levels tested. And look, here we go. This is a good example here. Again, we've got a double bottom, but look at this activity here. When you get all the, look at these wicks, this would have attracted my attention. We've got a double bottom with a lot of wicks. And then, of course, price breaks up, comes down. Then there was this huge move. I looked at this. I just missed this one. You're going to learn at the end of the month what caused that candle to rocket up. But again, if you were patient and you waited for a break of a trend line, then there was a huge trade there. I mean, you can see how that thing rocketed up. But again, you could have even increased this range box over here, massive range. If you included that level, you got to be patient. There's nothing worth trading, but eventually price is going to find momentum. So we look at a few more before I hand back to Ty. I think I've got my message across here. Look at a few more. I love looking at patterns. Again, most of these are double tops. Here's another example again. You can see most of these around times you would trade. When you see a lot of wicks, I mean, it is obviously range. So we can see all these wicks here. And I also look again, price made a high, then there's some lower highs. That's almost a bit of an M pattern disguise. But whenever you get all these wicks and price breaks out of that box, you tend to get big moves. So, I mean, you could have redrawn that over there, but I'm just trying to make the point that you always get big moves out of these rangy times ranging. Lots of wicks. We look at a few more. I think I've covered what I want to do tonight. We've gone back quite far. Let's just look at that pattern I'm trying to highlight. Again here, look here, a double bottom, multiple testing. So I'll draw a little box over there. That was sort of around midnight. We got this big double bottom. Again, price moves up after that. Triple top, big drop down. So I've kind of programmed my mind always to be looking for patterns. Let's see if you can find one more before I hand back to Ty. I think probably covered all of them by now. Oh, here we go. Here's another nice one. These ones, especially in the afternoon, often after they open, you can't say this is all the time, but often after the open, there's often kind of a more direct move than when for New Zealand time, then you often have a period of range. It's sometimes over lunch, but even during lunch, they're big moves. But again, look here, look at this box. We can see how price, let me just turn on again. We've got a lot of range here that ended with a double top. You can see this double top after that. When price broke out of that box, again, we can see a nice drop. The moves always come out of range. and out of multiple tests. So we can see price testing that level multiple times. This is a good run more. I can't help myself. Now I'm going to roll. Look at this head and shoulders here. We can see again, we've got this head and shoulders pattern. This would be around the open. So we can see again, there's a low, lower, lower, higher, low. So there's a reverse head and shoulders. There's a shoulder, there's a head, there's a shoulder. Plus we can see we've rejected a key level, 49,100. Let's just see what else would have been significant down there. You'll learn other levels moving forward. But again, the point I'm making, whenever there is a cluster or a key level and you get a pattern, you always get a big move after that. So we can see here, if we do a little range box, reverse head and shoulders, when price breaks out of it, we could have drawn a trend line. Let's just get my trend line on here. So from that eye, there was a trend line we could have drawn, maybe to that candle. And then after that break, price moves up. So, I mean, I've deliberately left the indicator off tonight to show you that, you know, if we understand price action, we can then look for those entries. So so the takeaway is tonight, especially whenever price rejects a level and there's an identifiable pattern, then there's always a good move and normally a safe move. And again, other takeaway, it won't always be perfect. So although this is kind of not a great example, but again, you can see here multiple tests of a key level, you know, more than a triple bottom, multiple double bottoms, and then a move up afterwards. So I think I've exhausted all the patterns I can see tonight, and I will hand back to you. So keep an eye out for patterns, and I'm sure that'll help you to be a successful trader. So Ty, back to you.
Brilliant. Good stuff. One question before you disappear. Wendy asked a good one. So sometimes price seems to test multiple times, like 4 or 5 times. How do you know if after, say, 3 tests, whether it's going to have another go or whether it's going to significantly reject?
Yeah, so there, I mean, the key then is to look for a trend line. So that's why I'm always drawing trend lines. So let me just find an example. So for example, over here, here's an example over here. So we can see price made tested this zone. So this is, you know, more than a triple bottom. It's like, you know, over 15 minutes. I'm on a 3-minute chart. Yep. Price, how do you know? Well, if you drew a trend line from there to there, that's a sign that now price has broken this pattern down here. So it's not quite a head and shoulders, but multiple tests at a level. And then the trend line is normally the test. We could have even, you know, even if you're drawn the trend line back here, maybe that's not the best example over here. It's when price breaks a trend line. That is the key. So I'm moving my trend lines all the time. So as price tests a level, I'm moving my trend line again and again and again. And generally there'll be other indications. But with where we're going, levels like this would be pretty clear that there's something significant happening that price is rejecting. So we're looking for break of trend lines when there are multiple tests. I'll see if there's a better example. I mean, I looked at quite a few. I mean what you're
talking about there as well is essentially a break of structure.
Yeah.
Is what some would say. It's like if you think about price making higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, or higher highs, then or making lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, and then when it reverses, when you have a break of that structural break of a trend line, that is another way to think about it. Has price just made another fill in the blank lower low or a lower high, or has it actually now broken some structure?
Yeah. I mean, this is not a great example. This is where volume is a bit lower, but you can see price made a low here, made a lower low, made a higher low. So if I was trading, you know, there would have been even some pips in breaking just that kind of double bottom. But I'm always stretching my trend lines out until there's a clear sign price is moving. But again, with where we're headed, it'll be clearer. So basically, trend lines are a key. So here, you know, you could have drawn trend lines over there. I'm always drawing trend lines all the time, and then often zooming out, doing them on my 3-minute chart, etc. So I don't know if that's answered the question, but I think that's the easiest way.
And there'll also be confirmations as such. Like, I mean, we are talking about price rejecting a certain level with or a pattern. There are still going to be signals, put it that way. that give elements of confirmation, multiple elements of confirmation. And the more that we have as a cluster, the better.
Yeah.
But if you're just solely right now looking at structure, then sometimes price will retest an area, and until I guess you see what's coming, it'll all make it a whole lot easier to think of in terms of safety measures and where to put a stop and all that kind of jazz. But there is a ton. I mean, Dad, say what you said to me today in terms of like the level of research that you put into this thing. It's like compared to previous adjustments.
I mean, the research I've done, because I've really wanted to get this right. We don't want to go through updates. Now this is like version 7.65. So I mean, I've just been doing hours and hours and hours of research over months, working out where the big money lies, where the key levels are that basically trigger the algorithms that large money institutions place themselves. So that's what I've been doing. So a lot of research.
I mean, unless you're showing any more examples, do you want to unshare your screen?
Yep.
We can move towards wrapping up. But yeah, there still thousands of lines of code and grouped into all the different bunches, which we were talking about today, and breaking down exactly how we're going to methodically work through teaching all the bits and pieces inside this thing. But the good news is it is more simple. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It's more simple than everything we've had up to this point. So yeah, it's an upgrade in every direction. More simplicity, more accuracy, and more opportunities.
Yeah, it just needs a different mindset, but it's got 4 easy rules, and it's way safer, and way more signals, way more opportunities. So we're going to like it. And we're going to love it. 28th of February.
28th, guys. And obviously we're trying to put in a whole ton of work between now and then as well to have content ready to go like we did last time, so that anyone who obviously can't be in the room for that educational community opportunity, they'll still be able to obviously pick up and go within a couple of days of that event. So that being a Saturday, that recording footage won't be ready anytime soon. So yeah, we're going to work on having some material ready to go so that everybody can, as of Monday, Tuesday, usually get access to the new thing, and then all rock and roll from there. So
yeah, but we'll do a few hours training, which will be a lot of questions. That's for our existing community, just to help you transition, and then it's all systems go.
Yeah, there we go. Just get all the thanks pouring in there. Thanks, Nada, Angela, Elise. It's going to be a goodie. It really is. It's worth the work on our end, because our goal is just to make this as smooth, as easy, as accurate for us, obviously doing this for a while, and those coming in brand new, to just have the most cutting edge system. And I think it's pretty fair to say that this is the most cutting edge system, because the amount of research that you've done, Dad, is silly for, and I've never seen anything remotely close to it. Nothing comes close to this. So
I mean, there've been some huge moves that are just to the millimeter. It shows you what has happened, where the big money is. It's where the big money sparks moves. That's the key.
Yep. And it's nothing that the world has ever talked about smart money in that concept at all. It's nothing to do with fair value gaps or FVGs, whatever you want to call them. None of that. Like, this is truly something that we have never seen anybody else teach on at all. So it is. Yeah, but when you see the amount of over and over and over and over and over again, because I've had a countless amount of screenshots, I became a believer pretty quickly that we'd, finally found something that is beyond what we've all been looking for. So, anyways, guys, without hyping it up any more than that, I know you guys are dropping all the fire emojis there. I love it. Very, very cool. But we're pumped just to be able to make this kind of an adjustment. Like Dad said, a mindset shift. But it honestly won't be as much of a shift as you think. I think by the time you see something and you've got a structured set of rules and you know exactly what to look for, it's just going to be more simple. And you're going to be stoked because you don't have to wait as long for an opportunity. So it is an adjustment, but when you realize and when you see over and over and over again how price responds to these zones that we're talking about, the idea of just taking something on trend is no longer, you will see why this is going to be the way that it is. So anyway, don't want to rip into hyping up anymore. We've still got a month to go, but we want to make sure we've got the right content in place for everyone to grab it and go at the right time. So with that, that's probably us for tonight. We will be back on Thursday morning, bright and early, for our live market analysis.
5:30 a.m.
That's it. And then again next Tuesday. So in
Yep.
the meantime, guys, diarize the 28th. Do whatever you can to be in the room with us. It'll be a fun opportunity for potentially some lunch, possibly off-site nearby, so we can all hang out, have some food together, maybe on-site. We'll see. Otherwise, we're going to spend a decent amount of time teaching, Q&A, hang out. It's going to be a wonderful time. So with that, thanks everyone for tuning in live or watching us later. And thanks, Dan, for putting in the effort always.
No worries.
Much
Have a
love
good
to all of
evening.
you guys. We'll catch you
See ya.
soon. Bye.
Bye.